Okay, so good evening once again. Sorry for that. Sorry for the delay. And I'm impressed that we all joined on time. That was actually a message that I passed yesterday, so that we'll be struggling to get you to connect to the class. So, if I can remember, we have concluded how to perform different analysis with Excel aggregate statistical functions, which range from the general application to single criteria and the multiple criteria. So I was thinking that I gave us a project on that. Okay, so that should be the case. I'll find a way of sending something across. All right, so we are actually looking at another advanced Excel function. And this set of functions are very important to us as data analysts using Excel, and they are referred to as Excel lookup functions. So we are looking at introduction to Excel lookup function. So what do we mean by Excel lookup function? These are set of functions that allows us to search for values within our data sets, both vertically and horizontally. The most used out of this set of functions are the VLOOKUP, the HLOOKUP, and the SLOOKUP. Tonight, I'll see how I can conclude everything about the VLOOKUP and, if possible, the HLOOKUP. So what I planned to cover yesterday was at least one of them, but I want to see how we can cover what we planned for yesterday and this session. So let's start with the general definition of this set of functions. Excel lookup functions. So Excel lookup functions are used to search for specific data in a table, range, or database and return corresponding values from another column or row. Let me take it again. Excel lookup functions are used to search for specific data in a table, range, or database and return corresponding values from another column or row. So if you look at that definition, everything still connects to what I said when I started. That is what these are functions that allow us to search for value within a data frame. But for us as data analysts, we are going to use this function to create what we call an automated analysis system that can be handed over to a company or an individual to perform various analysis even without your presence. So we are not just going to just look at them randomly. We are going to look at them from a project perspective. For example, the data we have on the screen. If I am asked to develop a kind of self-analysis system that only requires someone to pick a particular unique value and every other analysis is performed automatically, that is the project we want to look at. But we are going to combine the VLOOKUP and what we call data validation. So we are going to combine two functions together for us to be able to complete that project. Now, we can actually do away with the second function, which is the data validation. But as we proceed, you will now understand why we are involving the data validation. So I'm only trying to use one stone to kill two birds so that even outside the VLOOKUP, you know that there is a function called data validation that can be applied depending on you. So let's quickly look at the data set before us. So it's a very short, brief data set. This is 6 inventory data set with the following features. We have the products, we have the product ID, we have the product name, we have category, we have unit price, we have quantity sold, we have total sales, we have sales dates. Very simple data. Now, what are the criteria for applying any of this lookup function? Because you need to know, it's not all data that is given to you that will match the application of this function. The first criteria is that your data must have a column with unique value, at least a column with unique value. So if you look at the data set before us, the unique value here is product ID. When we say unique value in data analytics, we are referring to a column with values that are not repeated. So if you look at here, all these values are unique. In other words, they are not repeated. So I cannot say these are unique value. In fact, these are categorical value because values are repeated. So let's assume that you are given only from here. Let's say the entire data set constitutes only this selected area. It means you cannot use VLOOKUP. You cannot even use HLOOKUP on such data. So remember, the criteria is that your data set must have a unique value. So as we proceed, you will know why that unique value is important. But in a scenario where you are given a data set that does not have unique value, so what do? You generate serial number, because definitely the serial number will be unique. So in that case, you just create an extra column, label its serial number, and use it for the purpose. So looking at this data, what application do we want to develop? We're talking about analysis application here using two functions, the VLOOKUP and the data validation. Now, the application, because you must understand the communication of your app. Every app developer must first of all sit down and draw what we call flowcharts. So the flowchart is what defines what you'll be doing per stage. And outside that, you need to also define the algorithm of the application. So at the end of the day, what is the objective? What will the application do for you as a data analyst or the stakeholder? So you need to picture all this first before you start, because if you don't picture the end point, you may not know how to sequence your steps to get that end point. Now, remember I said we are developing an automated data analysis system that can help an organization with this data to select a product ID and then fetch other related information connecting to that particular ID in different column but the same row. Look at the keyword there. Once we pick product ID, it will analyze other related information connected to that particular ID in different columns but in the same row. So we need to understand that. So that is the objective. So in other words, we will create a different sheet like this. And then I can label that sheet analysis, or I can just say automated underscore analysis underscore app. So it's actually an app that you are developing, right? So now what we are saying is that this is where the app is going to be. Now, the user does not need to travel to the data source before he or she can search for any required information. So while the user is in this particular sheet, he or she can select a product ID, and then that ID will be used to travel all the way to the data source and fetch all the related information. So that is a communication. So that will now take us to the VLOOKUP as the first lookup function we are looking at. So let's start with that VLOOKUP. I would like to merge this for the sake of those that are writing. So what exactly are we doing? We are creating, let me use cap lock. We are creating a data analysis. Automated system. So I don't want to bother myself with formatting for now so that we can make good use of our time. Now, I can also, just to remind myself, to highlight the function of the app. So I can say this app or system will be used, or is used, will be used to search for information or values from the data source. From the data source. So I'm just highlighting this just to help me to keep in view of what we are looking at. All right. So, and I said we are applying, or we are going to achieve this with the use of data validation and VLOOKUP. All right, so let's start with the first thing we are going to achieve is to create the application user interface. In software development or in application development, you must start by creating the user interface. So the user interface must be friendly, which means that an interface where the user can manage the application. So that is going to be the first step. And the design of the application is very important. You have to structure it in a way that is user friendly. So before I even involve any of those functions, I want to engage us with the design of the user interface of this particular application. Now, to design the user interface, the first thing I'm going to do, I am going to get all the headers in the data set according to the what? To the order. So in other words, I can just highlight all of them, Control C, then go to the sheet where you plan to create the app, and then paste it Right, so now that we have all the headers here, so I'm going to ensure that I use all these headers to develop the application interface. So I want my app to be a vertical app, so which means that I'm taking this and I want to keep it here, and then I'm taking this, so I'm just leaving a cell in between them just to create a design and also just to separate them with a space. So based on the total numbers of headers in the data set, we just have just two columns. So I will arrange this one here, I'll arrange this here. Now, at the end of the day, we are going to probably program other calculation that once this information are fetched from the source data, then there could be other analysis which you can program manually. But let's just get the app working first. So the next thing I'm going to do is to design it. So I want all the fields to have a unique appearance. So how do I select more than one cell? I know some of us could be facing that challenge. You know, for you to be able to select this and select it without selecting this, you click on the first cell, hold down the control button and select what? Other cell. So this is how you select multiple cells in a cell. Now, I want to transform them. Let me just work with a color that we can all see very well from there. Then I would like to give them a background color. Which background color should I use? Check for a background color that will allow us to see the value. Okay, so if I'm choosing this, I have to change the text color to white. I think this should be better. Let me enhance the visibility. Okay, so let's say I'm working with this. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to, at the end of the app, we are going to silence all the grid lines so that the app can gain some focus. But let's just get the app working before we do other formatting. So the first thing I'm going to do is to validate this particular cell. And what do we mean by data cell validation? It means that we are restricting users from imputing values here. So which means that we are going to create a drop-down list of the values that the user ought to type or the user will have typed in that particular set. So doing that, we are going to use the data validation to create a drop-down. That is, all they need to do is just to click on a drop-down and then pick the product ID, and then that particular ID will now be taken to the data source by the VLOOKUP and fetch that particular ID product name, that particular ID category, that particular ID unit price, that particular ID quantity sold, same thing toward all the fields. So that is the idea. Now, the reason why it is preferable you create a drop-down list, it is because there are some users that can make mistake in spelling, and that can lead to not fetching the value. And that is why we are restricting them from, don't bother to type. We are giving you the list of all the necessary information to work with. So all you need is just to pick. So that is where we are now involving data validation. So as if I want to allow them to type, there wouldn't have been need for data validation. So how do we validate our cell? So you click on that particular cell you want to validate, and then you go to our data tab. From data tab, you see the function here, data validation. So once you click on it, you have a dialog box like this. So from the dialog box, we have to define our validation criteria. Now, before I take this, because what I actually need for this purpose is just what this. But just in case you want to, probably you are programming something else that will need this, that will need this. So I will just quickly explain them before I come back to where I want to program what is needed. Now, input message. Input message is just
Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, before you go far,
okay.
I can't seem to locate data validation on my own Excel. And it's looking like we are using the same
Hmm.
um form of Excel. Why? I don't know. Is there something I need to activate or something?
Where are you trying to get it from in the first place?
From the data tab.
When you click on data, are you saying you cannot see this icon? If you can't see this name like this, you should be able to see this
Yes.
icon. Check. Can you find any of this?
No, the only thing I can see is okay, text to column. Okay, I've seen the icon. Okay,
Good,
I've seen the icon.
good, good.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I was about explaining these two tabs before I come back to settings. Now, show input message when cell is selected. When a cell is selected, show this input message. Now, let's try and understand it. So let's say the title is, let's say I put app here. And then here, I write just, sorry, just pick a value. Just pick a value. And then I click. You see it now? So the next time you click on this cell, you get this message. I think that could make sense. So it helps the users to know that, oh, I'm to pick a value. So let's go back there. We have not actually completed that process. Now, if the user tried to enter something that is different from, okay, let's say the user tried to type without knowing that you have already set up a drop down for them to just pick. Because there are some users like that, they will see that message and they will still want to type inside that cell. So there should be a kind of a prompt, a message that will pop up that, hey, you are not supposed to type in here. So we can choose the stop, and then the title of the message can be, what do I put there now? The title of the message can be, do not enter values here. And the word that we get, I can say, you are not doing the right thing. You are not doing the right thing. So if I save, now let's say you try to type something there. Okay, we have not even we have not completed it also. I'm coming. Let's create, we have not added the drop down. Let's go back to it, complete it before that. And then let's go back to the setting. So from the setting, this is where you need to define your criteria. So by default, it's programmed on allow. So you change it to any of these depending on the nature of your data. So our values are enter vertically, that is list. So I'll select what? List. And then a cell will ask you uh, to capture those information that you want to save the users from entering or you want them to pick. So you just come to source, make sure that your cursor is blinking inside the source, and then switch to the data set and then capture everything you have here. These are the information. You can take it down so that in case that particular column receive more information, they can be captured. So by the time you come here, you see that what all the necessary information, they are here. So if somebody tried to type here what we are supposed to get that information. Can you see it? Once he or she try to type and click as if you want to proceed, he or she will get this information that what you are not doing the right thing. So that will have a way of reminding the person that, oh, okay, so what am I supposed to do? So maybe the person will get to know that, look at this message here, that just pick a value. Okay, so you just come here and click here. So that is how to create the drop down. So like I was saying, if I don't want to restrict them from entering value here, there wouldn't have been what? Data validation. I hope that is clear before we proceed to the VLOOKUP. So that is the end of data validation. So every other thing will be done with the VLOOKUP. Any question?
Yes, sir. Please, sir. What if the product, product ID, the cell you are using for the data validation must have unique value. So what if there are duplicates?
It's not qualified. You can't use it. Please. You can't use duplicates.
Okay, it must be something that has unique values.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That is what I said by
Okay, and I guess that was one of the reasons he said if there's no product ID, we can use serial numbers.
Good, exactly. In that kind of scenario, you create serial number. You create, or if you can have another way of carving something unique that will not affect the original data, fine. But we are not supposed to do that if it's going to affect the data. You know, if you have serial number, actually serial number will not affect the data. Okay, so so that is the end of data validation. Now we want to look at the VLOOKUP now. Now, why do we now need VLOOKUP? I want us to pay good attention here. Why do we now need VLOOKUP here? Now, what we are saying is that, okay, let's look at the definition of the VLOOKUP first and the attributed arguments. So let's get that understood first. So VLOOKUP means vertical lookup, which means that your data must be vertically what? Structured. That's the criteria for using VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP means vertical what? Lookup. So VLOOKUP searches for a value or values in the first column of a table and return a value from another column in the same row. So this is where at times students get it wrong. Look at that statement. Let me go back again. I'll tell you the keywords you are to note down there. VLOOKUP means vertical lookup. It is
So can I take that?
Yes, I'm taking it again. I say VLOOKUP, which means vertical lookup, searches for a value or values in the first column. The keyword there, I'm coming to explain why that first column is what? Recommended. First column of a table and return a value from another column. Underline that, return a value from another column in the same row. Underline the same row because I'm going to prove it to us now. In the same row. Now, what we are simply saying here is that when the user picks the product ID, this ID will now be the errand boy, will now be the what? The error what? Get that we go to this data. So which means that that particular value, that product ID, is the criteria that the VLOOKUP we use to set, to know exactly the kind of or the value to fetch. So we need to understand that. So what we are saying is that once this product ID is picked over there and the VLOOKUP is able to travel to the data set and be able to identify that yes, there is a product ID that aligns with what you choose over there. Now, it will use this ID to fetch the keyboard on the same row, fetch the word office equipment on the same row, fetch the word this on the same row, fetch this, fetch this, fetch this on the same row, but different column. So I believe now you understand that definition. Let me go back to that definition so that you understand what I just explained. I said VLOOKUP searching for value or values in the first column of a table and return value from another column in the same row. So that's the meaning. Now let me explain why the first column is mentioned there. Now it is expected that when you are using VLOOKUP, the particular lookup value, which is the criteria that the function we use to search for the value, must appear to be the first column. Why? Because VLOOKUP can only search for positive value. It cannot search for negative value. So what represents positive value and what represents negative value? Any value that is in front of it, it is referred to as what? Positive value. Any value that is behind that criteria value, it is referred to as what? Negative value. Now, let's say, for instance, now, this data set was given to you like this. Temporarily, let me add another space here. I'm coming. I just want you to understand, because these are some of the challenges you can face. So if I come here now and I add, let's say I insert another word, another column. Now, I move this one here. I move this here. And then let's say I move this here. So let's assume this is how the data was given to you. Before you proceed, you must restructure the data. You must rearrange it in a way that this lookup value, this criteria for the searching, must be the first one. Because there is no way the VLOOKUP can search for product name, because product name is negative value to what? To the criteria value. I don't know if anybody is getting that, please. Let me get a response.
If what's it called, has to be like a ID. It has to be in figure, it has to be in digits for you to be able to identify it, if I understand you.
No. It mustn't be an integer. Okay. Now, it can be straight. It can be, I mean, we have customer names listed, which are unique. Let's say we have customer names, which are unique. I can as well use it as my lookup value. I don't know if I've answered your question, ma.
Yes, you have. You have.
So long is unique value, whether string or integer, is permitted. All right. So the point I'm trying to make here now is that why is it that VLOOKUP cannot search negative value? Or I'm only trying to tell us that once you identify the lookup value, if it's in the middle of the data set, you must relocate it to become the first column, because that is what is mentioned there. That is the reason why the word first column is mentioned in that definition, trying to tell you that that lookup value should be the first column. That way, you are 100% sure that all the values is going to search, they are positive value. In fact, it is this limitation that led to the introduction of the last one, which is the S lookup, because of the VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP not being able to search for negative value. Then they now brought what? S lookup, which is the improved version of what? The VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP. When we get there, you understand it. So I'm just trying to explain that definition, right? So if that is taken, now it means that our data is fit, because number one, we have met the criteria. What's the criteria? Our what? Lookup value is already located as the first column. And number two, the values there, they are unique. So now coming back to your app is now for you to say, okay, we have gotten value for what? Product ID. But we are here to get value for product name. We are here to get value for category, for unit price, quantity sold, total sales, and what? Sales date. So VLOOKUP, with the help of any value that comes in here, you go to the data and fetch them out. Now, let's look at the VLOOKUP. How do you activate it? You position your pointer where you want to look for the first value, and then you type VLOOKUP. So the moment you type it, the function will be activated like this. So I'm going to spend some minutes to break down this function word parameters. What is lookup value? Lookup value is the value to search for. Lookup value is the value to search for. All right. So in this case, practically, is the selection of the cell where the criteria value for the searching is. So that will be my lookup value. So which means that I will select this cell. So what I have communicated is that any value that is shown here is the value that you should use to travel to the data set and search for other information in the same row but in different word column. Then comma. So what is table array? Table array is the total area. It's like the boundary within the data set. The VLOOKUP is permitted to search for the value, the total area. So which means that you will have to select the entire data frame, including the lookup value in the data source. So I switch to the data set and then highlight everything. Don't say this one should not be included. You include it. And when you are selecting, it's not necessary that you select what? The header. Just start from the body of the data like this, select everything. And then in case you want to create room for future entry, you select what? The entire word cells within that range. And then you put a comma. So once you have added your comma, so the next argument is what? Column index number. Column index number. So what is column index number? Column index number is the distance between the column where the lookup value is and the actual value you are looking for. Let me take it again. The column index is the distance between the column with the lookup value and the value you are looking for. Now, you have to measure it. How do you now measure it? Now, that was the reason why I arranged those headers after copying them from the data in that order so that I won't have to be coming back to be knowing or calculating the distance. Now, let's take it this way. This is the lookup value. You count it as 1. Now, what we are looking for right now is a product name that is attached to that ID. So which means that if we are counting this column 1, then the distance between the lookup, the lookup value and the actual value we are looking for right now is 2. Because this is 1, this is 2. So you put what? 2 here as your column word index, and then you add your comma. Now, this is part of a cell conditional function, which I told us when we were learning if function, that every logical function or conditional function has 2 values, the true value and the false value. Now, everything that you have defined, the expected result is the true value. In the situation where it could not search for the value, what should be outputted in that current cell where we are entering this formula in your app sheet? We say what? 0. Now, that 0 means what? The exact match if it does not get the actual word value. So once you have typed that, you press enter. The moment you press enter, you can see that it has automatically fetched the what? The product that is connected to the ID currently displaying in this cell. So let's check if the communication is well established. So let's pick another ID and see if that product name cell will update. So you can see that what is updating perfectly. So which means that your VLOOKUP is fetching the right information. But now, instead of you repeating that entire process for each of these, you will just simply select this one that you have generated, come to the formula bar, copy it, and then make sure that before you go for the pasting, you press enter to return that value. Otherwise, it will just override what that initial formula. So you click on other places where you want to fetch their information. Just paste everything the way it is, because we are going to update something for us to get the right information. So after this, now why it keeps giving us the laptop, because right now we are still using the index number, the same index number. Now I already know, without going back to the data, that the column index number to fetch the right category for this product ID, if this is 2, then definitely this will be 3. That is the reason why I arrange them according to the way they are in the data. Because I did not arrange them like this. What I would have been doing, for each time I want to know the column index, I have to go to the data set and start counting. But now I don't need to go there. So if this one is 2, then here is 3. So I'll simply select it and then come to the formula bar, modify the 2 to 3, and then press enter. It will fetch the right information. So the same thing to the rest. So if this one is 3, this should be 4. Then the same thing, select it and then change it to 4, and then the same thing to the rest. So that is all you need to do. So this should be a 5. This should be 6. This should be 7. All right. So now let's check it. Let's check it now. Let's try. Let's change the alignment. I want the alignment to be unique. I want the alignment to be unique. Now, let's change the ID and see if the ID is actually regulating everything. So let me pick another ID. You can see it perfectly. Now, this is what I was telling us before I give us some minutes to achieve it before we go into the HLOOKUP. All right. So now, at times, you can be creative. You see, all this thing does not have limits. All this does not have limits you can go. It depends on your creativity. You can develop another app from here. For example, now, look at this here. I can come to this sheet now and create another sub app. And this sub app is going to depend on this. That is what this one fetches information from here. And then once the informations are fetched here, this one we collect from here. So you can go like that depending on the application you are trying to, or the solution you are trying to develop for the organization. So I can come here and say, this one is maybe insights. Insert dashboard. So what do I want to calculate here? What I want to calculate here is that I want to multiply total sales by what? By quantity. So each time a product ID is picked here, whatever value that is currently there, the multiplication of the value, the two of them, should reflect in this. So I can create other ones. So I can say, okay, here, just permit me to do this because I just want us to go beyond what I'm going to teach us. I want somebody to come up with something creative at the end of the class, depending on the data you are given to work with. So let's say here, like I mentioned before, this is dashboard, or I can just say analysis dashboard. Let me just format it a little. Okay, so here, what do I want to analyze here? Here, I want to perform a calculation, and the calculation or the insight I want to derive from this app is that multiply quantity sold by total sales. So I will just come here. So I will just come here and say quantity. Let's say total. What will I use now? Total. Okay, let's say QTY times the total sales Okay, check again. Total sales. So let's assume this is the insight I want to derive. So I'm going to write a formula here, and the formula is to multiply those two values. So I will type what? I will just go to the app after entering the equal sign and reference this, right? And then insert my what? Multiplication, and then also what? Reference this. So if I press enter here, it has what? Giving me the what? The summation. So which means that anytime I look for a particular product ID analysis, for example, I do this, you will notice that what? This dashboard has also what? Updated. So whatever happens here influences what is here. So the idea is that you can use this to create receipts for customers. Yes, you can have the data set and then program your product, your lookup value will now be what? Product name. That once you pick a product name, it analyzes what? The worth of what the person purchased. And then you can also expand your analysis in different sheets. Then if you like, after outputting that particular or generating that customer receipt, you can print it immediately before you what? You search for another customer. So if there's no question, I want every one of us to achieve this. I'm giving us 10 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes to achieve this. If you are not using this data, or if you have a better data that can actually help us to get this, fine. So you can start now, and then if you have questions, you can also ask. Again, sorry.
So I said when you try to have a value, just pick a value.
Yeah, right.
Just pick a value.
Are you talking about
Yeah.
this particular?
So when you went back to no, not this one. When you added when you put the product ID, product name, category, everything on the automated app. So you went to data and then you went to data event, what is it called?
Data validation, right?
I went to data validation, yeah. So the moment you went to data validation, you added app and just pick a value.
Yes, yeah, okay. What I did was that I wanted to program a notification for them so that somebody would not want to type anything here. So I want once they click inside this cell, they should get this message that, oh, I'm not supposed to type anything, I'm to pick. You are always trying to send them to this drop down. So what we did is that, let's say I want to do it here. So I selected this particular cell where I want to validate the information. And then I went to data. So let me try and do it here again so that it will not tamper with one we have programmed. So let's say I want to put it here. So I went to data tab. So from data tab, and then I clicked on data validation. Can you see it? Can you see?
Yeah, I can see.
Now then we have this dialog box. So the first thing I did is to go to this input message. So it was from the input message. This is where I type the title, maybe like warning. Maybe your own can be warning. You understand? It can be warning. Then you now put the message here. That information you were saying that says
just to pick it, just pick it.
So you type it here. Then in case somebody still want to, maybe somebody bypasses this define rule and want to still impute anything, you now created an error alert. You understand? So this one can say be what? Maybe warning, and then you say what? You are not expected to type in here. Just pick a value. I hope it's clear now. So that is what I did. After this, then I went back to this to program it to select what? List. I hope you understand it to this level.
List.
Yes, after
I understand to that level, yeah.
Good. So you select list. After list, you make sure that your cursor is blinking inside this source box. Then you switch to your data, and then pick what? All the values you have here. Are you following? And then
I'm following. Did you press Control A or what?
Okay, I think this is where the Control A comes from. Now you click here, you hold down the Control and Shift, and then press down arrow button for you to select everything at once.
Everything,
you click
okay.
OK.
Press
That is what we do.
OK. Oh, Jesus.
I hope.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
I was also following until I got to the point where we're actually giving the product name, giving the functions of so while I think after you use that of the product's name, when you wanted to go for category, units, and price, I think you were just editing sort
Yeah,
of. That was where I
yes,
got
yes,
lost.
yes. Now this was what I did here. Now I don't want you to start writing the whole of this function for each of the field you want to get their information from the data. So we just applied a logic, and the logic is that I selected the first one that I've already gotten, and then I came to the formula bar, then right click and then copy it. Then I pasted it here, pasted it here, pasted it here, pasted it here. So for example, now let me paste another one here. Now remember, there's something that is what have just happened now. You see, there's something I explained to us that coming. See, this is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. Let me undo it again. Now, once you are done copying, let's say you right click and select copy, you press enter immediately to return the information there before you paste. You start pasting. So let's say I'm pasting here, Control V, and I want to call the right information. Let's assume that I pasted this here. Of course, here shouldn't be what USB cable. Here should be the category. So what I did is that I know that if this is 2, this will be 3. So I just click on that pasted function and then go to where we define the column index number and change it to 3 and then hit what? Enter. So it calls the right information. I hope that is clear now. Is that taking, ma? Hello? I believe that is clear.
Sir, good evening, sir. I'm trying to get a message here.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm with you, sir.
I understand how you got the product ID,
Okay.
which is created. You created the serial number to be a unique value, and how you impute the value into this. Now, is it still the same method you copy and paste in all other rows, like the product name, category, unit? Is it the same thing and you now edited it? So I want to get it clear. Thank you.
Okay, so your questions sound like the same thing I just explained to Mrs. Ahmed, but let me see, verify. What you are saying, are you talking about this product ID? Please, Mr. Ozige, please remain unmuted so that you can answer me sharp.
Yes.
Are you talking about this?
Yes, I'm talking about the second product.
Now,
Yeah, I know how you got this.
okay,
Yeah,
now
I'm
here,
saying that is
yeah,
it the same method? Yes, the second one, product name.
yes, what the same method. This, I think that was exactly what I just explained to Mrs. Ahmed right now. So let me see answer you. Probably maybe you were distracted. Now, what we are saying is that you have already written the whole of this function to fetch this particular information. And you will have repeated it here, repeat it here, repeat it here, repeat it here, repeat it here, across other fields to get their corresponding information. So what we are saying is that instead of doing that, we just copy that first one and then make sure that you, after copying it, you press enter to return the value that is there, because the moment you copy it will have, return it to the function mode instead of the value mode. So now once you have returned
Yes.
the value mode, then you cannot go ahead and start pasting. So let's say I delete this particular value now. For now, let's say we don't have it, and I paste it, you can say that it's repeating what I have here, right? Because I'm still using the same column index. So if I want
Yes.
to fetch the unit price, then I will have to calculate the distance. If here is 2, here is 3, here is 4. So I will just click here and go to where initially I specify column index to be 2 and put it what 4, and then by the time I press enter, it will fetch the right information. I hope that is clear, sir.
Okay, one on a quick note, this unit price, are you using the counting on these rows or columns, or
Oh,
we
no,
are
no.
supposed to use the
No,
one in the
it's calling it from the data now. Look at this. There is a column called unit
okay.
price. Look at this here. There is a column called unit price here. Are you seeing it? Mr. Ozigi, are you with us at all? Seems it's having network issue. Okay, so I believe others, I hope you are working because I want to come on your screen to check what you have done. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they
I can
can.
hear you, sir.
Okay, I was asking if I've answered your question.
Very well, sir. You have,
Okay,
sir.
so I'm waiting for us to achieve the task before. All right, so the assignment for the VLOOKUP, I think we all have that salary payroll data. Let me see if I can quickly show us that data. We all have it. We don't have it, so I can send it across. And this should be presented, please. This should be presented. This should be presented. And make sure you format it to, this is the one I did with particular class, not your class. If I change this, see that all the values are changing. So I want your own to be formatted like this. You all know how to format. Now, what you are going to do is this. I believe, check this data, whether you have it in the first place. Please, I want us to confirm whether we have this data, because this is the data you are going to use for the assignments. This is a salary payroll. So what you are going to do, you are going to generate a payslip for each of the employees using that same concept. What I mean is that this is the payslip. You can see that I did some additional calculation here, just like I did over there. Total earning, total deduction. All these led to performing different calculations. So you sort it out. So this is for Roberts. So let's assume that you want to pay Robert's salary. Once you get to your table, you pick the name, and then it analyzes the total earning and then total deduction, and then in fact gives you other necessary information about Roberts. So now you print this one out. Let's say you have to print it in an office. Then you analyze for another person, you print it out, and that is the essence of this. So your assignment is for you to create a payslip. So what we are seeing here right now is the payslip. So you have to come up with something like this. Make sure that you format it. The colors should be good looking, if possible, better than this. You can see that here I actually hid all the words, the columns and the row. And I want to believe that we know how to do that. So let me not assume, but at least you have gotten the assignment. Please take note of the assignment. The assignment is for you to use this salary payroll to develop a payslip analysis system for each of the employees. Take note of that assignment. And like I said, it's going to be presented before we continue our next class on Friday by the grace of God. So let me take us back, just in case you do not know.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, sir. Can you send us that salary thing, the payroll,
Okay.
to this WhatsApp?
Yes, I will send it. That's what I wanted to confirm, because I know that I've sent it some time, but I will send it since you don't have it. So
Okay.
what I'm saying is that you can, at the end of
admin, I want to focus on formatting. At the end of your analysis, what you do is this, just like what I did here now. All the cells holding the values are also make them look unique by holding down the control button, just like we did, and selecting only. So this is exactly what I did on that particular report I just showed us now. And then I went to home, then choose a different word background color. So something like this I did. Now, after this, you can decide to hide all the grid lines because it doesn't make it look cool. So you go to View tab, and then you turn off the grid line first. And then if you like, you can also turn off the columns and the row label so that to look, and then maybe you can highlight the whole of this section like this and give it a background color, something like this. So which means that you will have done this, or if you do this now, what it means is that you will have to start formatting all of this. So the choice is you. I just want something good at the end of that project. All right, so that takes us to the second piece of tonight's section, which is how to use the HLOOKUP. How to use the HLOOKUP. So I will just round up the class on Friday with the SLOOKUP. Make sure that you don't miss that class, because if you know SLOOKUP, you may not even need to bother yourself with the VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP. That is exactly the essence of introducing that function. For some persons, prefer VLOOKUP, so long they can align the lookup value to become the first column. All right, so now for HLOOKUP, I'm going to take the whole of this data to a different sheet so that I don't tamper with what I've done. Control-C. Then let me add another sheet, Control-V. Then I'm naming this, taking it in the first place. I want it to come after the last sheet. Then name it HLOOKUP, that we can differentiate it. Underscore data. Now, let's also look at the definition. The definition is not that really far from the VLOOKUP. The HLOOKUP means horizontal lookup. Horizontal lookup, which means that the criteria for the application of the HLOOKUP is that your data must be structured horizontally. How can we recognize data that is structured horizontally? It is when all these headers are listed like this vertically. That is when the data becomes a horizontal data. So at the moment, this is a vertical data. Now, what now happens? Does it mean that you will now manually start reconstructing this data? No. You are going to do what we call transpose. You are going to transpose this data, which is also applicable to if you are given a horizontal data and you want to use it for VLOOKUP, you also transpose it to what? To vertical data. So that transpose is a function that will switch the data what? As is. In other words, this become what? This way, and then why the value become what? Horizontal. So that is the first thing we want to achieve. How to transpose our vertical data to what? Horizontal what? Structure, so that we can use the HLOOKUP as the criteria. Now, the first thing you are going to do is to highlight the entire data frame. After highlighting the entire data frame, the next thing is for us to copy, to do as if we want to copy it. To do as, because we cannot go direct. So go to Home tab, and then you select what? Copy. Now, once you have clicked on copy, you make sure that you do not try to paste it in front of any of this row, because at the moment, it sees these rows or columns used. That is what this particular record have used. So you must not paste directly what? Beside
the area you copy. So you go down to where your selection stop after the last record, then you click, that is, this is where you want to paste. You paste what underneath. And then when you now want to paste, we are going to use special pasting, not the regular pasting. When you come to paste here, you don't choose any of this. You go straight to paste special in order for us to access the transpose. So once you click on that paste special, you will see the command we are looking for, which is what? The transpose. So once you click on it and select OK, you can see that you have automatically switched the data from vertical to what? Horizontal. And what can you see? You can see that the features, the headers are not listed what? Vertically. And then you have the product ID listed what? Horizontally. I want to find out if you understand it to this level before I proceed, because this is the first thing you must do if the data is not given to you in this horizontal structure. I want to find out if...
Yes, we understand.
Okay.
Now, I understand.
Okay. Now, are we good? The rest. Okay. Let me get response from additional person. Are we good? Okay, so let me assume all is good. Now, let's assume that you are given the data like this and you want to change it back to what? Vertical. The same way, you highlight this, you copy, and then when you are pasting, you select that special paste, and then by the time you select transpose, it will take you back to the vertical structure. So which means that at the moment, I don't need this vertical one again. So I'm going to do something like this. Then let it like this and then take it up. Sorry, get it well. So now I'm deleting the whole of this. So I'll take this to the first row. Always do this to the first row. So let me try. I'll move it in a way that I will not miss the alignments. Make sure that you take the whole of that horizontal data to the first row. Right. Now let's create an equivalent app just for us to understand how to use the HLOOKUP, since we now have our data in the right structure. Now, what I'm going to do is to copy this to a different sheet, which will be acknowledged as the app. So this is the data, and then I come here and then probably paste it here. Then I'm going to name this. What? HLOOKUP analysis app. HLOOKUP analysis app. So now I will delete the whole of this. So in order for me to have the user interface, just like the way we design the VLOOKUP. So this is the shape of the app. So what do I intend to achieve here? I want a situation whereby, in this case now, we are not going through all that validation. We are not going through that. So what we want to do is that once an ID is picked, it will fetch the ID's name vertically now, fetch the ID category, fetch the ID unit price, fetch the ID what? Quantity sold, fetch the ID total sales, fetch the ID what? Sales date vertically. So for each ID, it will fetch all their corresponding information from the sheet. So let's start. So this is where you activate your HLOOKUPs. We are going straight to HLOOKUP. We are going straight to HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP. So let's also take some time to understand the parameters. So if you really understand the parameters of VLOOKUP, then you must have understood this word 90%. Now look at this. Your lookup value here is this. In other words, you are still fetching record based on the product ID selected. Then, comma, your table array still remain the selection of the entire area of your data you want to limit the search on. So which means that will take us to what? To the HLOOKUP data. And then remember that same way we selected, we are including everything. We are including everything. Let me take it here. We are including everything like this. All right. So we are including everything. Now, that is your table array. Then you put your comma. Now, as soon as you add your comma, the next one is row. Instead of column index number, it's now row index number. Because right now you are dealing with a horizontal data set. So now that same logic, the first product ID, which is the criteria for the search, is 1. The first row, you count the whole of this as what? 1. Then the distance between it and the product name that we are currently looking for is 2. The category will be 3. Unit price will be row 4, and so on. So which means that entering what? 2. And then comma, then the approximate what? Match value. If it doesn't find it, it should display 0. And then by the time I press enter, you see that what? The function have automatically fetched what? The ID. Now, that is for this. Now, one good thing about the HLOOKUP is that sometimes, from my own perspective, is more intelligent than the VLOOKUP. But just that most apps that we develop, we use VLOOKUP. Most business scenarios goes with VLOOKUP than HLOOKUP. Now, you know, in the case of VLOOKUP, we have to start changing the index number, the column index number before we could get the value. But for HLOOKUP, look at this. If I just autofill here, it will fetch the other information, every information pertaining to that ID. And the same thing, if I even autofill like this, it will give me what? Everything automatically. And then if I also do like this, to fetch everything for me automatically. So depending. So that is for the HLOOKUP. So you can also think of how you are going to use it. Like I said, most businesses application uses VLOOKUP and SLOOKUP than HLOOKUP. So if you have any question, you ask. Any question on the HLOOKUP? Very simple once you understand the VLOOKUP. Those that are not here. For those of us that are not in this class, or those of us rather that do not have a Excel version above 2020, we are going to have issue using SLOOKUP, which the command we shall be looking at Friday. And the reason is that if I type equals to and I say S, you can see that the command is not built in this current version. This is Excel 2019. Now, SLOOKUP was introduced in 2020. So that is why you can only find it in Excel version or Office version higher than what? 2019. So if you are running 2020, 2022, 23, 24, 25, or whatever, you should be able to have the SLOOKUP already built in. Even as I'm talking now, you can check your own. You can type equals to and type what? S, whether you see SLOOKUP. If you can find it, it means you are good to go on Friday, right? But for those of us that cannot find it, I'm going to use because I don't have it in this particular system. I'm going to use Google Sheets to explain it to us. I should be able to have it in Google Sheets. Any question, please? Okay, so let me assume that